Hey everybody, it's Party Elite, continuing the magic guide for Total War Warhammer. This time we're looking at the Lore of Life. Currently available only to the Wood Elves and the Empire, the Lore of Life focuses on augment spells with an explosion and a direct damage spell as well. Please keep in mind that some of these numbers might change with patches, and the prices differ between the Wood Elves and the Empire for multiplayer, with them usually being higher for the Empire. Very important for this lore is an added ability that comes with it. Life Bloom costs 54 points to equip, but gives map-wide hit point replenishment for 10 seconds. This ability recharges when a spell is being cast, and triggers when a spell is initially cast. Keep in mind, Life Bloom is not necromancy. It will not bring individuals back from the dead, and as such, units with dead soldiers will only be replenished to the maximum health of each individual. So if you're going in with this ability, some of the spells that may otherwise be considered weak have the added benefit of triggering this ability. The first spell is one such spell. Awakening of the Wood is an explosion with a very small radius, but a 12-second duration that will give units a negative 48% speed as long as they're in the area of effect. Costing only 6 winds of magic with a 25-second cooldown, it can be quite useful in triggering and recharging Life Bloom. The explosion itself causes marginal magical damage, but the reduction in speed helps counter the potential impact from an incoming charge and also allows you to fire on an enemy unit for longer before lines meet. At a cost of 54 points, I take it with me for 3 reasons. 1. It will help recharge and trigger Life Bloom. 2. Reducing their impact bonus or giving me more time to rain ranged fire down on them, and finally, because even marginal damage can help end an engagement sooner, thus freeing up my own units for more important tasks. Earthblood is a vital spell to carry into battle. An augment area spell, it can target the ground or an ally and replenishes hit points within a 30-meter range. With a cost of 8 winds of magic and a cooldown timer of just 26 seconds, you can get a fair amount of use out of this spell. Overcasting doubles the duration of the spell and costs 11 winds of magic instead. Use Earthblood to keep your units alive. As the Wood Elves, your melee units will take a lot of damage fairly easily, and no matter the faction you're using, more health is always better. Very important to keep in mind, this spell is not necromancy. When you lose individuals, they will not come back to life. As such, your maximum health will drop as individuals die. With a low cost of 48 or 51 points, this is a very valuable spell to have on hand. Flesh to Stone is an augment spell that gives plus 30 armor to one unit for 27 seconds with a cost of 8 winds of magic and a cooldown of 44 seconds. Overcast, it costs 12 winds of magic and gives a plus 45 to armor instead. At a cost of 117 or 120 points, taking this spell when it won't be used means you could have ranked a few units up, so you have to be fairly selective about taking it with you. Consider the units in the rest of your army and how you intend to use them, and consider the potential composition of your enemy's army. Since the spell can only be cast on a single unit, you have to be very selective. Casting it on a high armor unit while it's already in combat with an armor-piercing unit will help keep it alive for longer. Casting it on a low armor unit while it's in combat with a non-armor-piercing unit can help negate most, if not nearly all of the damage. However, that same 8 winds of magic could be used to replenish the hit points of 2 if not 3 units, while also triggering a map-wide hit point replenishment. As of now, I don't think Flesh to Stone is worth carrying into battle, and even if you take it with you, I would definitely not overcast it. The chance of hurting my spellcaster for a mere 15 extra armor on a single unit is simply not worth it. Shield of Thorns, another augment area spell, gives a plus 22% weapon damage and a plus 22% missile resistance for just 9 winds of magic with a cooldown of 45 seconds. Overcast, these benefits double to 44% each, but the cost goes up to 14 winds of magic. The effects last for 20 seconds and assist any allied unit within 45 meters of the cast. It can be cast on the ground or on a specific unit to lock onto it. At a cost of 114 or 117 points, this spell is far too expensive for what it does, in my opinion. If you were to use it when your units are charging into the enemy, you can protect them from missile fire. Unfortunately, if you cast it late enough that lines will meet and you'll get the benefit of the extra weapon damage, you will have already taken some missile damage. If you cast it as soon as you're in range of most missile fire, it will be gone before lines meet. The ideal place for its use is for a beast, monster, or otherwise large units. These are most likely to be focused on, and will also get the biggest boost from the percentage-based boost to weapon damage. Unfortunately, 20 seconds is barely enough time, and the cooldown of 45 seconds means this spell is largely ineffective. Same goes for your cavalry as well. On their way out of a cycle charge, they will become pincushions. Regrowth is an augment that can only target a single allied unit. With a cost of 12 Winds of Magic to cast, a 56-second cooldown, a 33-second duration, and a 195 cost to equip, it provides a plus 22% physical resistance and replenishes hit points of the selected combatant. Overcast, it costs 17 Winds of Magic and increases hit point regeneration and doubles physical resistance. This spell, alongside Earthblood and Life Bloom, can make a world of difference, especially with some of your easily damaged units that have a low melee defense or armor. Keep an eye out on the replenishment cap, however. Once reached, you cannot cast the spell on that unit, preventing it from gaining the damage resistance as well. Use this spell and this combination of spells to help an engagement you can't afford to lose. Whether in the air or on the ground, protecting an essential flank or preventing your center from folding, Regrowth can make quite a difference. But with a cost between 12 and 17 Winds of Magic, make sure you're truly picking an essential engagement. If you're low on points, you might consider swapping this out for the Dwellers Below, particularly if you're playing with units that won't likely be taking too much damage from the enemy faction to begin with. If you can afford it, take both. The Dwellers Below is a direct damage spell that lasts for 15 seconds, targeting the ground in a 30-meter area. With a cost of 18 Winds of Magic and a cooldown of 59 seconds, it's quite an expensive spell to cast. It can cause a fair amount of damage to the enemy unit, and overcasting simply increases the range of the cast for a whopping 21 Winds of Magic. Anybody walking through the area of effect gets struck by Dwellers Below, an effect that reduces speed by 24%. With a cost of 195 or 198, it's quite pricey on all fronts. You can slow the advance of your enemy quite a bit as the speed reduction goes on for 3 seconds after they've left the area, and this can get some extra shots in. With that said, however, it only really applies for the Empire. After all, with the Wood Elves, I could save that money and get Glade Guard with Hagbane tips and cause speed reduction and more through poison for 10 seconds. And that can be used against flying units too. If you have spare points left over, you can equip it and use it sparingly when your opponent has blobbed their units up. If you're low on points, you have to pick between Regrowth and the Dwellers Below based on your faction and your opponent's faction. If you're likely to take a lot of damage from the enemy, Regrowth might be the better pick. If you've got fairly armored units with high melee defense, you're better off with the Dwellers Below. Of course, with spare points, taking both is always an option. And that is the Lore of Life. Of course, this is a brand new set of spells, and with it comes some uncertainty and the possibility of needing to update it in the near future. The Lore of Life is a very interesting lore, and with proper management, the regeneration abilities can prolong tough engagements as long as you can maintain morale as well. Available for both the Empire and the Wood Elves, it has a few spells that are absolutely essential, and is paired with the Life Bloom ability that is a must-have as well. I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the Lore of Life, and any strategies you might have in mind for the spells they provide. As always, for more Total War content, including updates to this Magic Guide miniseries, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and keep up with me and the channel by following me on Twitter at _PartyElite. And, as I said, any Lore of Life related thoughts of your own, let us all know in the comments below.